Thank you for joining us. We'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. Just a little bit more time for everyone to tune in. So good afternoon and welcome back to those of you who have joined us throughout the day. This is the final broadcast of our Easter Sunday Sanctuary from Your Sofa event, and we're live at Shelter 1 here at the Donkey Sanctuary, Sidmouth. In just a few minutes' time, our resident donkey behaviour expert, Ben Hart, will be talking to us. But first, we're joined by Marlene, who's here to introduce some of the donkeys here. Over to you.
Hello, welcome at Shelter 1, the home of our adoption donkeys Coco, Hannah and now also Ruby. We got our Hannah here. Hannah's doing really well. She's still friends with Coco, but she's also friends with Drizzle and Hannah, and I even caught her with Ruby on the yard the other day. Hannah's a real lady. What she likes, we groom our donkeys with something called tea tree oil, and whenever we got the bottle out, she smells it and she runs over. She wants to be groomed, and afterwards she starts smelling all the other donkeys, and she loves the smell of the tea tree oil. They're really enjoying the grass today. It's a lovely day. We'll go and find Coco. While we go walking up to Coco, these two are Buster and Oscar. They used to live in the main yard with Ruby. And the funny thing was, when Ruby moved over here to Shelter 1, they recognized each other. So they instantly, she let them be around her, and yeah, it's really nice to see. This one here is called Bump. He came from Ireland. Coco is still doing really well. He's 26 years old now, and it's a really nice story because he looks after the herd. So when something's going on and it's a bit restless, he always makes sure everybody's all right. It's the same thing he did when Ruby came with her friend Wonky the donkey. So when they arrived, we let them out in this really big field here, and they were all occupied grazing, so they didn't really pay any attention to Ruby and Wonky. But to be honest, they've been here for 6 weeks now, and they've settled in so well. So and you look after them, don't you, Coco? And he was one of the first one they allowed him to eat with them. This little girl here is called Mars. That's one of Hannah's friends. And that one's called Grizzle. Grizzle's best friend with Tornado. They were rescued a long time ago there. She's been living here for, I think, at least 6 years. And when they came, we named them all after the weather, like Tornado and Drizzle. And we had a Thunder. But Tornado and Drizzle are really bonded, so they moved over to Shelter 1. It's a little friend again. As you can see, they lose lots of hair now this time of year. So when we groom her, she loses lots of hair, don't you? The average age of a donkey is around 30, but he's still very lively and playful with the other donkeys. This one here is called Timmy. You might remember last time he was rescued with his friend Tommy, and it took a while for them to settle in. He's more confident than Tommy, but Tommy has turned around a lot as well. So in the beginning you couldn't groom him or anything, but now you can, pick out his feet and groom him. And he's very inquisitive, aren't you? And for 6 weeks now. She's been at the sanctuary for 8 years, and she used to live in a new barn. That's our biggest barn here at the Slate House Farm. And when they go out on the field, it's really steep, and she got some arthritis, so she started to be a bit quieter. Didn't go out with the other donkeys that much anymore. Stayed on the yard. She wasn't really herself. But then she moved over here, and as I said, she's really settled in really well. The other donkeys accept her. She started to get back to her old self again. Like the first week when she arrived, she already knew how to open the gate to the field, to get into the feed room. So we have to put all locks on every doors now because she can get in everywhere. But she likes here at Shelter 1 as well. When the visitors come back, she can really see them. She goes. Yeah, we've got a public footpath goes alongside this shelter here, and every time when people, she'll be there saying hello to them. So she can't wait till all the visitors get back inside. And it's nice to see that she's back to her old self. Here's Timmy again. She sees follow his Wonky the donkey. They came together. He's settled in quite well as well. He's sometimes a bit protective over her, but yeah, you see, because sometimes in the evening they're all eating together in the barn, and Wonky's on the other side and Ruby on the other side, so they don't need to stick together all the time. So that means they're very comfortable in the herd.
So are they a bonded pair, Ruby and Wonky?
Yes, they are. Yes. Yep.
And how do we know that?
Well, they used to watch them together all the time. He keeps an eye out on her, so we recognize it when they are together, and he sticks out for her. We have to, for example, if a donkey has to go to hospital or anything, you mustn't separate them. You always have to keep them together, because that can make them even quite ill if you separate them.
Should we say a quick hello to Tornado over here?
Yeah, Tornado's the friend of Drizzle we just talked about. Hello, Tornado. Boy. Tornado's got a little spot here. I don't know whether you like that, don't you? When you are looking after the same donkeys all the time, you know, get to know them really well. So when you groom them and they say, oh yes, this is very nice. When I'm cleaning the yard, he always follows me around for a little tickle there. Hmm? So they're 10 years old. So the youngest one in here is 5 years old, is Tommy. And as I said, Coco is the oldest one, so they vary a bit in age.
So we've just watched Zippo having a little bit of a rollabout behind
Oh
you.
right, yes. The funny thing is they always have to roll in the same spot, like you see all these bald spots there. And as you see, he lost his collar. Because Hippo likes to play as well, and we make the collars that they can lose them easily if they play, so they can't hurt themselves.
So why do donkeys like to roll in the dust?
I think it's, yeah, but they especially do it after grooming, which is really nice when they're all shiny. I think it's just a natural way of, yeah, sort of having an itch and nice, make them feel nice. Oh, here it goes again. It's lovely a day like today. They're all out, but they're still coming in the evening. And even, you know, when it's still cold at night, we put on heat lamps to keep them warm, especially for the older donkeys. And we still feed them something extra, but then when the summer comes in, they go out on the fields 24 hours.
So I think actually a couple of people didn't see us go and say hello to Coco when we first started. So shall we go over and say another quick hello to Coco?
Absolutely.
And while we do, Marlene, Rosemary's asked, what brushes do we use to groom the donkeys?
Oh, we have different types of brushes. Something called the body pairs. So we have different kind of brushes. Of course, hoof pick. We clean their eyes. And what we do when we groom them, we just feel them over. Yeah, any feel lost any weight, if they need more, something extra to eat. So grooming is a really important part of your bonding with your donkeys, and keep an eye on them. Yeah, and as I said, we use tea tree oil for them, for their coats. Yes, Wonky. That's Wonky, Ruby's friend. I just want to say I'm here now. Yeah, the tea tree oil is really good as well as a lice prevention. So if when they've got any lice, we just give them a really good. Coco really has a really lovely coat.
So just before we move on, should we go and say one more quick hello to Ruby, the newest resident here at Shelter One?
Yeah, please do come and see her when we're open, because she really misses the visitors. And she's back to her, as I said, to her old tricks, knowing to open all the doors. Ruby's 14 years old now. Yeah, it's really nice to see that Coco was one of the first donkeys she allowed near to her before she completely settled him.
So if you are looking forward to being able to come and see Ruby and friends again, keep an eye out on our social media channels and website for further updates about reopening here in Sidmouth. So thank you for joining us here, Marlene. If you'd like to find out more about adopting Hannah, Coco or Ruby today, head to bray.news/adopt or tap on the link below this video. So donkeys are often portrayed in a negative light on TV, in films, and in the media. In fact, presumptions about donkeys being stubborn, stupid, or bad-tempered are unfortunately deeply ingrained into our culture and many others around the world. As you can imagine, these negative connotations are far from the truth. In fact, many of them stem from a lack of understanding of donkeys and what their behaviour is actually telling us. Joining us now is our resident donkey behaviour expert, Ben Hart, who's going to tell us more. If you're watching on YouTube this afternoon and have any questions you'd like to ask, please do feel free to pop them in the live chat box and we'll come to as many as we can at the end. Without further ado, over to Ben.
Wow, you just interrupted me in a nice little bit of donkey time, really. Beautiful sunshine here in Devon, a lovely Sunday afternoon, getting some donkey scratches. And it was interesting listening to Marlene talk about Ruby and how we've had to put locks on all of the doors and gates. And one of the superpowers, the donkey superpowers I wanted to talk about was about their ability to learn to learn. The fact that Ruby can undo things and get out is amazing, but the fact that she's learned to do it, and the more she learns to do, the faster she gets at learning. You know, donkeys are really clever at learning to learn. So I've met donkeys that have been quite old, 17, 18 years of age, have had bad starts, and we start working with them and training them and handling them, and they get smarter and quicker and faster. We had a donkey and he learnt to roll out a red carpet for Dr. S, bless her, and it took him just 7 5-minute sessions to learn how to roll out this carpet for her, because they're so good at learning. We had a donkey called Sam who's part of our show team, and he learnt not only to open the door of the feed room, but to let all the other donkeys in and open the feed bin so that they could all get some food. And look at Bramble just turning round and saying, "Scratch my bottom." Fantastic bit of human training there. They're so good at learning to learn. They're so quick at figuring things out. The more we do with them, the faster they get at learning. And that's one of the things that are misunderstood about donkeys, is that we tend to see them, maybe people look at them as pasture ornaments rather than these really smart, intelligent animals that we want to work with. The more we do with the learn with us. The other thing that Ruby shows us is one of the things as a behaviourist, people often get in touch with me, my donkey's jealous. It's biting the other donkey, it's pulling faces when I've given them a fuss. And these two are being really very social about just both accepting a little bit of attention. But people call them jealous. And the problem when we label a behaviour from our donkeys like jealousy is that it has negative connotations, and we then think of it as bad. We know that donkeys aren't jealous. It's our human perception. What happens is acts to a very valuable us and think, oh, I'm really upset because my friend's getting attention. They look at us and go, donkey as being negative or in some way doing something. And then we stop giving them attention, which is the very thing a donkey might like individuals. And some of them, and so if you've got a donkey that wants attention, the first thing we do is make sure we fulfill that need, give them plenty of attention. Let them have their scratches, let them have their cuddles if they want them. And when they've had enough, they'll wander off, and then you can give other donkeys attention. You can see that these guys are really lapping up a little bit of a scratch. They tend to prefer scratches to pats, especially nice wither scratches. Sometimes they'll move to put you in the right place, to try and just go, yeah. We can scratch hard enough in the right place, we'll start to see their lip move, and it resembles mutual grooming. Feels really good, lowers the heart rate. It's quite hard work for me to push hard enough and mimic being another donkey. But it's super important that we don't label them negatively, because as Charlie said, when we label them negatively, we treat them differently, and that's something we don't want to do. One of the labels we know that donkeys get given is stoic. Very stoic donkeys. And people think that stoic means that they don't feel pain, and that's nothing could be further from the truth, really. What it means is that they don't show pain in the same way. So we tend to see donkeys and we think of them as very stoic. Now the reason they're stoic is because of their ancestry. They grow up in an environment that's different from horses. In the wild, they would live in very sparse, arid conditions with little food and water. And what that means is that they live on their own, really different from other equines. And so if you live on your own, males tend to hold a territory around a watering hole, which is completely different from horses. And if that happens, showing that you're in pain means that other stallions are going to attack you. If you live on your own with your foal, if you look like you're in pain, you're more likely to get chased by predators. So the donkey's ancestors have evolved not to show pain, but that really importantly means that they still feel pain. They're still feeling the pain. And one of the things that we have to really get people to think about is small, subtle changes in behaviour. While a horse with colic or stomachache might be rolling around and sweating, or it might be kicking, it's really obvious to see. With a donkey, the subtle changes in behaviour. Maybe your donkey might still be eating, but he just doesn't quite look like himself. He doesn't come up as he might have done on a normal day. And that's really important, to notice these small, subtle changes in behaviour. So donkeys, not only are they good at learning to learn, not only are they really good at getting access to resources, they're really stoic and don't show pain, so we have to really watch them carefully. And then they have brilliant memories. Now there's some donkeys here that are from our donkey therapy work, and they will remember all of that. I've seen donkeys, we measure memory in short-term and long-term memory. And short-term memories, we sort of see equines that sometimes don't have any better memory than 8 seconds, which doesn't sound very long, but if you've ever tried to remember a phone number, you know that thing where you go, oh, and then you go to the phone and you get halfway through and you can't remember it, that's like an 8-second memory for short-term memory. So we're not much better than many donkeys. Many donkeys have good short-term memory, maybe up to a minute or so. Depends on the individual circumstances, how they've been brought up. But what's really important is they also have really good long-term memory. And that happens when I've seen a donkey come up to a group of people and identified a previous carer, someone they hadn't seen for 2 years, from a lineup of people who were in identical clothing. They were in uniform, so the only differences were their face and maybe smell, which is another donkey superpower. And they were able to walk up through a group of donkeys and they went straight to the person they hadn't seen for 2 years. Phenomenal memory. So everything we do with a donkey, they're going to remember, good or bad. And one of the things that I see a lot of, and I really want to encourage people, donkey foals. They are the cutest thing. We've had a donkey foal here recently, and everybody wants to cuddle donkey foals. They're cute, they're fluffy, they've got massive ears. And what we do is we want to pick them up, put them on our knee. We want them to be putting their feet on our shoulders, which is really cute when they're 6 months old. But they've got this brilliant long-term memory. So what you do with them when they are 6 months old is what they're going to do when they're 4 years old. And while it might be cute to cuddle a donkey and pick it up and put it in the car and do crazy things that you see people do with foals, it's not so much fun when that donkey is 4 years old and weighs 180 kilos. So handle your foals, train your foals, work with your foals, give them the attention that they want, but do it in the right way. Think about everything that you're going to do with your foal is something they're going to remember and do for the rest of their lives. Such a problem when we see foals being over-cuddled and over-handled. Prepare them for being donkeys in domestication, but don't play with them, because if you want to have your foal chase you around the field, it's the cutest thing until they're really big and they do it. So just think about that long nostrils and bulging eyes, and you see all the body language. And so in your mind you go, okay, my donkey doesn't want to do this, but he doesn't look that scared. And if he's not scared and he doesn't want to do it, he must just be stubborn. And that's a real problem for us. Donkeys are not stubborn. They have a really great sense of uncomfortable previously. We have to treat them as individuals. We have to think about their characters, how they were brought up, how they were handled as foals, the experiences that they've had, who they are. Do they need attention like Ruby, or do they? That way we best meet our donkey's needs, is being able to learn about who they are as an individual. And the hundreds, the thousands of donkeys that we care for, they're all unique individuals, and trying to meet each donkey's needs is a massive challenge. So just thinking about donkey behaviour, remember that they're really good at learning to learn if you've got donkeys, so they can learn everything. They're like learning sponges. They don't tend to think of what's right and wrong, they just learn. So if your donkey nibbles you or nuzzles you and you give him attention, he thinks that's what works. That's what he's going to do more of. Think about the fact that they don't get jealous, but they do want access to valuable resources, just like us. Think about the fact they've got the stoic nature, the tiny changes in behaviour, which will tell you that there's a problem. Think about their memory, and everything you do with them, they're going to remember. They're going to remember how they were treated, and how you treat them is how they're going to respond to you. Even if they've had a bad start in life, if you treat them in the right way, they're going to come around and want attention. And finally, just remember, and wherever you get chance to dispel the myth that donkeys are stubborn, that would be really great. Just tell people when you hear them say it, when you see it written, just tell them it's confusion. Anybody who thinks that a donkey's stubborn has really just been outsmarted by one, that's all. So if you want to learn more about donkey behaviour, go to the Donkey Sanctuary website, find the webinar page. There's 4 or 5 webinars on there that you can learn more all about donkey behaviour and what's involved.
So thank you to everyone who's been sending in your questions for Ben. So the first one we've got, Ben, is from Victoria, who would like to know, where is the most popular place for donkeys to be scratched?
Well, as Molly said, it is a bit unique to each donkey, but on average, most donkeys will like the wither area being scratched. I think you saw some footage right at the start of this clip of 2 donkeys grooming each other, mutual grooming, and the most common place would be on the neck and the shoulders here. We've got somebody else moving in for some attention. So you can see there, when we do it hard enough, again, it really depends. Donkeys are individuals, so how hard, how fast, you've got to work quite hard to get this nice reaction. If you're just going, good donkey, nice, doesn't really do it for them. So get in there, give them a good scratch. And after that, then along the rump and onto the bottom here, a lot of donkeys might like. Just be careful of where you're standing and reading the donkey's body language. But this area is the nicest, Victoria.
So Kathy would like to know, how do we know if a donkey's in pain?
Okay. You have to look at the whole body language. First is, has their behaviour changed? Is what you're seeing normal for your donkey? Secondly, you're looking for little signs of tension. So muzzle, is it nice and relaxed here, or is it tight? You see, the minute I've just touched, he's gone, oh, what are you doing? And that gets a bit tighter. Is the tail tucked? is do they look like they've just pulled their stomach in and are just sort of tucked up a little bit, concertina down. Those are all signs, ear position, but the number one thing is normal behaviour. Is my donkey behaving normally? That's what we want to look for.
So Peggy would like to know whether we ever matchmake donkeys who are maybe a little bit less sociable.
Peggy, that's a great question. Yeah, the behaviour team, we're actually working on that at the moment. We're figuring out, we've done it for years. We try to, obviously, some donkeys will naturally bond. Some donkeys tend to bond really strongly. Other donkeys bond sort of in a more relaxed way and will spend time apart but prefer to spend a bit of time together. Some donkeys are actually single donkeys, maybe if they've been brought up, unfortunately, on their own. We try to look at character, age, their gender, what are their needs, you know, it's the needs of the donkey. You don't want to put an older donkey with a young donkey. The young donkey has lots of needs for play and maybe being robust and running around, and an older donkey might want a bit quieter life. So we tend to just find and give them an opportunity, really, for them to tell us. So we set up the situations where they can choose.
So Christopher would like to know, how can we make a donkey happy?
Christopher, that's a stunning question. We could do a whole day on just talking about that. But I think the first thing is to listen to them, fulfill their needs. You know, what does a donkey need? How do we look at their well-being? They need some friends. They need some freedom to roam about. They need the right diet, so forage and variety, so that they can eat for the length of time, and donkeys are going to try and eat for 16 to 18 hours a day. So it would be easy to think of big lush grass fields. That actually isn't going to help them, because they're going to get fat and laminitis and all that sort of thing. So sparse vegetation, long fibre, all of those sorts of things. And then we look at the individual needs. So if you've got a donkey here like Timmy, who's like been stood for 20 minutes wanting scratches, that's going to make him happier. Other donkeys are only going to want it for a few moments, and we just try and meet that individual. Marlene said, you know, you get to know, where does that donkey want a scratch? So it's finding what each animal needs is really the key to making them happy.
And just finally now, another Christopher would like to know, what other animals can you safely socialise and happily, socialise donkeys with?
Okay, that's a good question as well, Christopher. Ideally, donkeys prefer the company of their own kind. So we would say that, you know, if you've got one donkey, you need another donkey, ideally. Sometimes donkeys will befriend other animals if other donkeys aren't available. But the best choice is probably another donkey of the right character and breed. We tend not to encourage them to be mixed, because donkeys can sometimes be territorial and chase other livestock. Dogs, cats, pigs, sheep, goats can all be targets for the territorial behaviour of donkeys. So we would always advise people to keep them separate and to try and find another suitable donkey companion. They will sometimes bond with horses, but obviously people have different needs. They want to take horses out for rides and they do stuff, and then if the donkey's left on its own, the donkey can become very stressed at being separated from its bonded friend. So we try and avoid that if possible.
Brilliant. Well, a massive thank you for joining us here today, Ben. You've been taking some time out on your Easter Sunday. So sadly, we are now coming to the end of today's event. We really hope that we were able to bring a bit of a smile to your face on Easter Sunday, and we can't wait to be able to welcome you back to the sanctuary as soon as we can. If you missed any of today's broadcasts and would like to catch up, all 6 will be available to watch back in full on our website and YouTube channel. Don't forget, entries for our Easter giveaway close tomorrow at 11 p.m. If you'd like to be with the chance of winning one of our 4 gorgeous Neddies, head to bray.news/Easter-giveaway. That's bray.news/Easter-giveaway. Below this video. Best of luck to everyone who enters. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to bring you along for another virtual visit, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.